You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the January 14th, 2025 meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening, and I would like to welcome you to the first regular meeting of the Board of Zoning and Appeals for the year of 2025. Happy New Year, everyone. Tonight, we will start off with roll call of officers, which I will do. Just as a caveat, board members, when I call your name, because it is the beginning of the year and because we are going to undergo some changes and things of that nature as far as improving our ability to do the best for the community that we can. I would like each board member, once name is called, to introduce yourself and to just give a little description of yourself and why you joined the board and things of that nature, just so everyone knows who you are. I would like to start with Mr. Jackson.
Ricky Jackson, and I am here. I've been on the BZA. I think this is my third term and actually just got sworn in again last week. I enjoy it. It kind of keeps me in the know, but at the same point, it's nice just to try to help the city move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Klinder.
What?
Go back.
Here. Been on the a member of the planning commission for about 15 years, and as a result, I'm the assignee to the zoning commission from the planning commission. Of course, my original reason for being involved is to try and help Michigan City as much as I can, having been one of the living here for 80 years, trying to see what we can do to make it a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Stransky.
Hi, I'm Kathy Stransky, and I've been on the board several terms. I'm on this board because I love the city, not just my neighborhood. I love all the neighborhoods, and I get around and I go see people just to see what's happening in their neighborhood and see if it's something we can help them with, or at least they have somebody that they can tell their story, and maybe I can bring it back for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Vance.
Hi, I'm Deborah Vance, and I am on my second term here on the BZA, and everybody stole my answers. But I love this city, and I like being involved to see changes and things moving forward, and I'm just excited what this new year is going to bring.
Thank you. And Mr. Gross.
I'm Brian Gross. I've been on the board now. This will be my second year as opposed to term. I'm on here basically to help improve, hopefully, the city for the citizens and property owners of the city. Thank you.
Mr. Hale.
My name is Steve Hale. I've been legal counsel for the BZA and the Plan Commission since approximately 2011, and I've been a practicing attorney here in Michigan City since approximately 1984.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Hale. Hello, everyone. Again, I am Dr. Sylvia Martin. I am the Assistant Director for the Planning Department. I've been with the city for almost 3 years now. I am your direct contact as far as applying for the variance, discussing the variance, and determining whether the variance is necessary. I work closely with the petitioners. I am open for all questions and hopefully able to give you all the answers you need. And I'm located upstairs in the planning department. Thank you. Now, I would like to move on to our agenda. And just for some clarification, the original agenda still had 24 on it. I did update it. You should see that in your packet. That's basically, other than the fact the minutes dates were in 24 as well. But I updated both of those and you should have them. And for the public, there's some sitting up at the front just for your clarification. I would like to move into the election. But I would like to ask to amend the agenda at the will of the board. And I will explain why. I would like to place the Pledge of Allegiance after roll call, if that would be sufficient, because we did agree that would take place. And I, again, this time, left it off the agenda, but I will make sure moving forward that we will do it. And if you're okay with that, we can go ahead and.
So moved.
Could I amend that? I
Sure.
would like to amend it to the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silent reflection afterwards.
I second it.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Will everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Jackson?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The second thing I would like to request from the board is that as we move forward in our motions, can we please state our names before a motion as well as before a second, because as you know, I'm currently doing the minutes and of course I know you, but I have a system. And I would like to make sure that I have accurate information. Okay? So we are going to move right into our agenda, and the next portion is the election. We are going to elect for our president. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Ricky Jackson. Yes, but I'll get up here. I nominate Deb Vance and I nominate Ricky Jackson.
Kathy Stransky, and I second that.
May
Mr.
I
Jackson?
interject?
Of course.
Would you amend your motion and your second to reflect that your motion would elect Mr. Jackson as chairman, which I believe is the correct
Yes, it
designation
is.
for the officer
It is.
of the BZA?
It is. Thank you, Mr. Hale.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Yep, Deborah Vance and I nominate Ricky Jackson for chairman.
Kathy Stransky, and I second that. Ricky Jackson for president.
Chairman.
Chairman, excuse me.
Mr. Jackson, do you accept your nomination?
Yes, I do.
Do we have any other nominations for the office of chairman? Any other nominations? Seeing none, congratulations. Oh, never mind. Seeing none, can I call for the vote? Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Now I congratulate you and I will turn over the floor to you.
All right. So the next part of the elections is going to be the vice chairman, correct? Okay. So is there any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Deborah Vance.
Is there a second?
I second Brian Gross.
And would you call the,
Do you accept Mrs. Vance?
Yes. We need to call roll.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Do we have any other nominations? Any other nominations? No nominations. I will call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
yes,
Mr. Klender,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
and next is secretary.
No, secretary is appointed by you, actually based upon our zoning ordinance, Article 28, BZA appeals, Section 228.03. It states that sorry, here we go. It states that a secretary or an employee may be appointed by the chairperson. And it is consistent with IC, which is Indiana Code 36-7-4-913.
I would like to make a comment on that. The secretary does not have to be a member of the board.
We understand that. Do we? Sorry.
So at this point, I would like to ask Kathy Stransky to continue on with the secretary spot.
I will accept.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the approval of minutes.
Yes.
Okay. So next on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Board members, if everybody's had a chance to go through the minutes, is there a motion or,
Well,
let's start one by
Oh.
one.
sorry,
so
we have two
November 12th.
sets of minutes, which is going to be, November 12th of 24. Is there any corrections?
Yes.
There is.
I am seeing several spots where Fred Klinder's last name is not correct. Isn't it Klinder? And it looks they have transposed the I and the L, so we just need to make that correction.
Any other corrections? Okay, is there a motion to accept
As amended?
the minutes as amended?
Brian Gross, I make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
I have a motion by Mr. Gross. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
A second by Kathy Stransky. And the tally, please.
I will call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klender,
For the misspelling. Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Van,
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Motion to approve, pass.
Next is the approval of minutes for December 10th, 2024. Is there a motion or is there any corrections?
Again, Mr. Klinder's name is misspelled, so I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes with the correction of his spelling.
Look like I thought that's how it was.
So I have a motion by Mr. Gross. Is there a second?
Second, advance.
Second by Ms. Vance. And could you call the tally, please?
I will call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klender,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Minutes approved
Okay.
with amendment.
All right. So moving next in on the agenda then is going to be our first petition. Can you call our first petition for this evening, please?
Of course. We have petition number B-104-24, petitioner Patrick Shee for St. John Church, and they're requesting a developmental standards variance at 101 St. John Road. Please come forward. As you step up to the mic, please introduce both of yourselves so that we have it for the record.
All right, I'm Patrick Shy with Venapco Signs. I say it wrong already. I messed up. And this is Pastor Bill Fine from St. John's Church. We're applying for his sign at his location.
And can you tell us about your project tonight, please?
We're just trying to convert their sign in to have an electronic message center. Instead of
Okay.
have a copy board where they just put letters up. So we'll move into the 2025, right?
So you are actually here tonight because there are other LED signs
Within 600 feet.
within 600 feet, correct? Okay.
And they're located within a residential district.
Are the other signs greater than 12 square feet?
They have to be. They would have to be for us to get this variance, right?
Well, the distance is the main thing.
Yes.
So the distance is.
So they're within 600 feet. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
Wendy's and there's an Ivy Tech right there.
I think the ordinance actually states within 600 feet of another sign that's greater than 12 square feet.
Yeah.
Is that true?
All right.
It says
Does say.
electronic message center that are greater than 12 square feet in area shall not be located within 600 feet of any other electronic chargeable message signs greater than 12 square feet in the area. But like he stated, they all are larger. Wendy's is huge and Ivy Tech is,
But clearly they would have had to have a variance to get those signs because there's multiple within 600 feet. So, yeah.
And actually, they may have actually been there before
yep, they make
the
it
code took effect
Okay,
of when the city adopted these codes. So it's anything afterwards
that
that,
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Grandfathered in.
I think after 2011.
gentlemen, if you just want to hang out there for a second,
Okay.
Ms. Martin, can you get into your report? And that way, if there's questions, we can hit as it goes, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Tonight, I am reading the Planning Department's report for B-104-24, Patrick Shy for St. John Church, 101 St. John Road. There was no remonstration from the sanitary department, nor the water department, nor the fire department. The zoning ordinance requirements for this area is the property is zoned R1C, single family residential district. The petitioner is requesting two developmental standards variants to allow one, the petitioner to have a EMC sign in a residential district, and two, to allow a sign that is greater than 12 square feet to be within 600 feet of another sign greater than 12 square feet. The required Section 19.06 General Provisions for Permitted Signs states that electronic chargeable message signs changeable message signs illuminated by light emanated LED. Electronic message shall only be permitted in non-residential districts. Section 19.06 General Provisions for Permitted Sign. Section D, number 5. Letter C, electronic charging measurable signs that are greater than 12 square feet in area shall not be located within 600 feet of any other electronic chargeable measuring message signs greater than 12 square feet in area. Section 19.06, general provisions for permitted signs. Illuminated signs adjacent to residential. Illuminated signs within 50 feet of a residential districts are prohibited unless it is designated to not reflect or shine light onto a residential district. Table 19.04, specific sign requirements. The sign shall not be taller than 6 feet and 72 square feet per side. Section 19.04, permitted signs. B, number 8, a monument or a ground sign. Monument sign shall have a brick base and a landscaping around the base of the sign. Planning Department's comments. The petitioner is requesting a developmental standards variance to convert the current monument sign into an electronic message center monument sign. To allow an EMC sign in a residential district, the residential zoning prohibits EMC signs through the structure of commercial, though the structure is classified as commercial where it is permitted. To allow a sign greater than 12 square feet within 600 feet of another EMC sign. The EMC sign that is proposed does not exceed the maximum required size for a regular authorized EMC sign. The petitioner seeks the variance to update a non-conforming sign with an LED illuminated electrical message sign. The standards for a developmental standards variance are found in Zoning Code Section 28.11B and are set out below in italics with the department's findings. Number 1, general welfare. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. The planning department's findings. The proposed monument sign will enhance the community without compromising public health, moral, or general welfare, as it will not exceed the height of the existing sign. The petitioner is seeking a developmental standards variance to transform the current monument sign into a state-of-the-art electronic message center sign. The existing sign complies with all current regulations, and there will be no change to its alignment. By adding the EMC component, we will retain the original structure while modernizing its function. This upgrade will have no adverse effect on the community, especially considering the lot size and width of the property. Meeting nearby lots along Franklin, which are less than 600 feet, already utilize EMC sign, demonstrating that this addition is both particular and consistent with local standards. Number 2, surrounding properties. The special exemption use will not be, the developmental standards use will not be injurious to the use enjoyment of the other properties in the immediate vicinity of the proposed already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property's value within a neighborhood. The area surrounding the property will benefit from the addition of the sign, which will not adversely affect its use or value. Designed with a height that ensures clear sight lines for all neighboring structures, the sign will enhance the visibility without obstruction. Spanning 7 acres, the property is ideal for electric message center sign, which will be carefully scaled to blend seamlessly with the landscape and minimize any impact on adjacent property. Installing this sign will provide significant benefits to the community, utilizing the property's generous size and width to create an improvement that everyone can appreciate. Number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in particular difficulties in the use of the property. Particular difficulties shall result from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zoning district. The variance shall be necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property's right that possessed by the property owner in the same zoning district. Enforcing the current zoning regulation poses serious challenges for the property's development. Given the existing sign, the lot dimension, and its limited is limited frontage, enforcing not as limited frontage, is large frontage, enforcing the 600 square foot sign restrict as specified in our regulations would drastically reduce the visibility. The restriction could jeopardize the property's commercial visibility and overall success, hindering its potential to thrive in our community. The Planning Department's recommendation. The department recommends approval of B-105-24 to allow the petitioner to have a freestanding sign measuring 140. A freestanding sign. The sign shall not be taller than 6 feet and 72 square feet per side as established in table 19.04 and specified sign requirements in our zoning ordinance. Monument or ground sign regulations. Monument sign shall have a brick base and landscaping around the base of the sign as established in section 19.048 our zoning ordinance. Illuminating sign adjacent to a residential district. Illuminating signs within 50 feet of a residential district shall not reflect or shine light onto the residential district. General provisions. The petitioner shall follow section 19.06 general provisions for permitted sign, including but not limited to particular regarding illuminating as outlined in section D and the specific guidelines of electrical charging measurable sign as detailed in paragraph 5A-F of the zoning ordinance, and the petitioner would be allowed to have a EMC sign within a residential district. These conditions ensure that the sign meets community standards while allowing the petitioner to proceed with their proposed sign plan. Compliance with these regulations will help maintain the aesthetic and functionality integrity of the surrounding area. So ends my report.
Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Hale, please.
May I ask Dr. Martin if she would restate or tell us again her condition relating to the size of the EMC per side?
Yes, so based upon the petitioner's request, they requested a smaller size than the standards for the EMC sign. So my recommendation is that they do not exceed 6 feet and 72 square feet. However, the sign that they have proposed doesn't even get close to 72 square feet, and it is already existing at 6 feet. But
In terms of size, the 72 square feet is per side or in total?
72 square feet per side.
Thank you.
No problem. And currently, I think currently they're at like 60, a little less than 60, right? Yeah.
Real quick, get a number. Yep, just about 60.
Yes. And the base exists at less than 2, and its maximum is 4. So they are within parameters of the zoning requirements for the sign. They just aren't allowed to have it in that area because it is a non-conforming sign. And once they turn the sign into a EMC sign, that sign now becomes governed by the existing zoning ordinance.
Okay. Mr. Hale, would you like to go into your report, please?
Yes, sir. My report is for petition number B-104-24. The petitioner is Patrick Shy. The property owners are St. John's United Church of Christ of Michigan City, Indiana. The request is for 2 development standards variances for property at 101 St. John Road, Michigan City. Initially, I would advise the board that I've had an opportunity to review the notice documentation supplied by the petitioner, that it meets that documentation meets our requirements, and you're free to consider this matter. Next, I would note that this matter involves electronic message centers, referred to as EMCs, a moving picture sign, if you will. And the petitioner is requesting to install an EMC into an existing sign, and that raises the two issues, or the request for two development standards variances. Although EMCs are permitted in non-residential zoning districts, as Dr. Martin pointed out to you, this is a residential district, and therefore, to allow the EMC, the petitioner is required to have a development standards variance. In addition, within 600 feet are two additional EMC signs from other property owners that exceed 12 square feet, and pursuant to our zoning ordinance, that requires the petitioner to obtain a development standards variance to allow his EMC sign, which exceeds 12 square feet, to be approved when there are these two other signs. So that is the issue. Dr. Martin properly advised you as to the standards that you are to consider, that is found in section 28.11 subsection B. And so I would indicate that if you find that those things are or are not met, that you have the option to, 1, grant the request, or 2, partially grant the request or grant it with limitations which must be included in the motion, or 3, grant the request but subject to certain conditions which must be included in the motion. And I would note that Dr. Martin included conditions in her recommendation to you, or 4, you can deny the request, or 5, you could table this matter until a future meeting. I like to always include in my verbal report that the record includes a variety of materials, including the materials submitted by the petitioner. In addition to the notice documentation that I mentioned, the petitioner submitted a Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals petition development standards variance signed by the petitioner, a surrounding property owner list, an acknowledgement of our public hearing notice requirements properly signed, a notice of public hearing stating the hearing date, an affidavit of service as also signed by the petitioner, a development standards variance, proposed finding in order, a corporate quitclaim deed dated April 25, 1977, a second dated December 15, 1962, and tax cards, and a quitclaim deed dated October 31st, 1967. All of those indicating the property legal description. Also, a beacon overview showing the location of the existing sign, and the second beacon overview showing the neighborhood, a map of the area showing the zoning designations, a NADCO signs work order describing both the size and the specs for the proposed sign and EMC, a picture that is artwork of the sign, a written description of the project, and a signed affidavit whereby the church as owner gives authority to the petitioner to proceed with this matter. Also included as part of the record is the presentation by the petitioner that we heard this evening, Dr. Martin's report, and this report. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. We're going to open it up now to the board's comments. Is there any of the board members that has comments?
Now, this sign is just going to replace an existing sign, correct?
Yep.
In the same location,
Same exact location.
And-
We're using the same brick going at the top.
using the same base.
Yep.
And from what I see, the square footage of the new sign is pretty close to the same square footage as the old sign. Okay, thank you.
Board members, any other comments from the board? Any questions? No questions? No? All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to open this up to public comment. Public comment. So public comment, come on up front to the microphone. Your name and address for the record. I'll ask that you keep it to 2 minutes and make sure that it's pertinent to the petition at hand, please.
Yes, good evening. My name is Kent Lang. I live at 404 South Porter Street. I'm a member of St. John's Church. And for the last 8 years, I am the individual who changes the sign every month. The sign right now is approaching its usefulness. It's been there for a long, long time, and the north side does not close all the way. It is open to the elements, and after a rainy day, if I change the sign, water runs out of it. It's one of these things that if we can change this to the sign that we would like to have, it would be beneficial. I would appreciate it. I am approaching 79 years old, and changing that sign in this kind of weather is worrisome sometimes. But as I mentioned, it is approaching its usefulness. It's been there for a long, long time. And if you grant that, there's a lot of people who would appreciate it, particularly me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lang.
Thank you.
Hello, Board. Scott Melland, 200 Kenwood Place. Sadly, I'm going to speak in opposition to this. I'm sure the sign could use some repairs and updating, but we do have this ordinance for a reason. I'm not sure why this is considered residential zoning, given that it's across the street from a large mall, a Sears store, it's next to an auto repair store, and it's across the street from other commercial properties. But nonetheless, it is a residential zoning. I have some concerns. Bright lights affect many drivers at night. This would be at eye level, an EDM that's, no higher than 6 feet. We have these rules for a reason. If we disagree with them, we should change the ordinances. But we give a lot of, if we give everybody a variance, what's the point of having the laws that we have? So nothing against the petitioners, but I am speaking out, and I live in that area. I would say no to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Your name and address for the record, please.
Leslie S. 9224 Marine Hills Road. I'm a member of the church. And Mr. Lang was wrong when he's saying that sign is about at the end of its life. It's already hit that point. We have replaced hinges and everything else. But my point is in respect to what the gentleman says, listening that the property that we are talking about, that it is residential. It's residential RC. I'm not sure what that means, but looking on it, Park Street, if you follow Park Street down, you got some all B2 where you have all the Wendy's and everything else, but then it ends when it hits the property line of what St. John's would be, I think, right there. But why that little piece of wouldn't get knocked off and just rezone that? I mean, it's crazy. And then in respect to the gentleman saying that the sign is eye level, well, when you're looking at signs and they're up in the air and you're driving, aren't you sort of really taking your eyes off the road? It's easier to just glance out of the side vision to see what's on a sign or whatever. And that's my point. And I say that only because I've driven a truck for over 40 years. And when it's eye level, where you don't have to look up, it's a lot easier. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment? Public comment? Public comment? Public comment is now closed. Board members, is there any more discussion or a motion?
I would like to make a comment on the brightness of the sign. The ordinance now actually regulates the brightness of ECM signs after, I don't know if it's 6 p.m. or 8 p.m., but it actually regulates it so they cannot be too bright at night like they used to be. I'm not, the older ones have probably been grandfathered in, but newer ones should not be nearly the distraction that older ones were. And I think there's also a provision in there that they can only change messages a minimum of every 7 seconds or something. But it can't be a continuous changing of messages. It has to be more static than some of the ones in the past.
Any other comments?
And just, excuse me, for clarification, those provisions are a part of my recommendation for them to follow all of the provisions within our zoning ordinance as it represents EMC signs.
Board members? Is there any more comments or motion?
I would like to make a motion that we accept petition number B-104-24 with the planning department's recommendations. I am Brian Gross.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Gross. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
May I interrupt?
Mr. Hale, please.
Mr. Jackson, Mr. Gross, I assumed when I listened to your motion that by indicating the planning department report, you meant that you were adopting and imposing the conditions that were included in there.
Correct, imposing the 4 conditions that they state in their report.
Very good.
Okay. So is there a second?
I second it. Deborah Vance.
Sure. Mic on?
It is not. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I second it, Deborah Vance.
Okay.
I will call for the votes. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klender,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Congratulations. All right. Next on our agenda, please.
Next on our agenda, we have B-105-24 Legacy Sign Group. They're requesting a developmental standards variance to increase the square footage of their pole sign by 73.3 square feet per side.
Good evening, gentlemen. If you'll come up here and give each one of us your name and addresses for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Larry Yurko with Legacy Sign Group.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Luke Seifert with Legacy Sign Group. Nice to meet you all. And I am Jeff Wazlowski, the property owner.
Okay. Can you tell us about your project?
Thank you for the opportunity to present this request to you. We're here before you tonight seeking your approval with the removal of the existing sign and the installation of a new freestanding sign for our client's property, who has invested significant amount of money improving the property, and we want to continue that with the removal of the old wood sign and an improvement of a current technology sign that would incorporate a full color LED electronic message center. This message center would comply with state regulations with dimming features at nighttime, enhancing the property and serving the client for his needs. The freestanding sign would also incorporate materials from the building so that it doesn't look like an afterthought. It will enhance the area in which it's serving professionally and for decades to come.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to move into the reports. You're more than welcome to stay, or you can go sit down or have a seat, or I'm sure there'll be questions.
It's the same one that was read.
It's going to be, she's going to read hers, the attorney will read his, then we'll go into questions for you guys. Okay.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Martin.
Thank you. I present to you the Planning Department's report on petition B-105-24 Legacy Sign Group representing JMB West LLC at 760 Indiana 212. It's not working for me today. The water department has no issue, nor sanitary, nor fire department. The property is zoned as M1 Light Industrial District. The zoning ordinance required is in table 19.04, permitted signs. It states, pole signs should be a maximum of 30 feet tall and 72 square feet per side and 1 per street frontage. The petitioner is, however, requesting to seek a developmental standards variance to allow the construction of a freestanding pole sign measuring 145.3 square feet per side. The petitioner is requesting Development Planning Department's comments. I do apologize. The petitioner is requesting a developmental standards variance to allow a freestanding sign measuring at 145.3 square feet per side, which exceeds the permitted size of 72 square feet per side. This request is an increase of 73.3 square feet per side, resulting in a total sign area of 290.6 square feet in total. The developmental standards variants are found in zoning code section 28.11b and are set out below in italics with the department's findings. The first standard, general welfare. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, or general welfare of the community. My findings. The proposed freestanding pole sign is designed to enhance the community while upholding public health, moral, and general welfare, as it will comply with height regulations set forth in the zoning ordinance. The petitioner is requesting a developmental standards variance to upgrade the existing sign to a pole sign measuring 145.3 square feet per side. Approval of this variance is anticipated to have no negative impact on community, particularly when considering the size of the lot and width of the property's frontage. The new sign is expected to provide improved visibility and aesthetics value without compromising the surrounding environment or the enjoyment of the neighboring property. This aligns with community standards and regulation, supports a favorable outcome for the variance request. Number 2, surrounding property. The use will not be injurious to the use enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property value within the neighborhood. The proposed use for this sign will not be injurious to the use or enjoyment of the neighborhood properties in the immediate vicinity, nor will it substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. The addition of the sign is expected to benefit the surrounding area by enhancing visibility without negatively impacting neighborhood structures. The lot is located on 13 acres with a substantial frontage of 548 feet. The sign will be designated to maintain clear sight lines for all surrounding structures. The strategic placement of the sign, approximately 377 feet from the south entrance, that a significant portion of the frontage does remain vacant and unobstructed. Additionally, the sign is situated about 277 feet away from the residential district to the west and 491 feet from the south. further reducing the potential impact on nearby residential areas. Overall, the carefully scaled design of the electronic measuring sensor sign aims to blend seamlessly with the landscaping, helping to minimize any effect on adjacent properties. Approving this variance will support the property's development while ensuring the enjoyment of the surrounding property remain intact. Number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in a particular difficulties in the use of the property. Particular difficulties shall result from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zoning district. The variance shall be necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right like that possessed by other property owners in the same zoning district. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance creates particular difficulties for the use of the property due to exceptional or extraordinary circumstances that do not generally apply to other properties within the zoning district. In this case, presenting the current zoning regulations present significant challenge that affects the property's development. Considering the existing sign, the dimensions of the lot, and the limited executive visibility, adhere to the current size restriction would drastically diminish the sign's visibility. The significant restriction could jeopardize the commercial visibility of the property, limiting its ability to attract customers and succeed within the community. Granting the variance is therefore necessary to preserve and enjoy substantial property rights similar to those held by other property owners in the zoning district. By allowing for a larger and more visible sign, the property would have a greater chance to thrive and contribute positively to the surrounding area, ensuring that it can operate effectively and attract the intended clientele. The planning department's recommendation. The department recommends approval of B-105-24 to allow the petitioner to have a freestanding sign measuring 145.3 square feet per side, subjected to the following conditions. Number 1, the pole sign must not exceed the maximum height of 300 feet. Number 2, the sign shall not be larger than 145.3 square feet per side, which permits the variance for the proposed sign. The petitioner shall comply with table 19.04 in our zoning ordinance for permitted signs. Number 4, the petitioner must follow section 19.06 general provisions for permitted signs, including but not limited particularly regarding illumination as outlined in section D, and the specific guidelines for electronic chargeable measuring signs as detailed in paragraph 5A through F of the zoning ordinance. These conditions ensure that the sign meets community standards while allowing the petitioner to proceed with their proposed signage plan. Compliance with these regulations will help maintain the aesthetic functionality, integrity of the surrounding areas. So ends my report.
Mr. Jackson,
Mr. Hale?
Dr. Martin, I heard you indicate as one of your conditions that the sign could not exceed a certain number of feet. I heard 300 feet.
Yes,
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
we were all looking.
Did you
I
mean,
do apologize. It is 30 feet as presented in my report. I think my eye saw an extra 0 for some reason.
very well. So the condition is 30 feet, so there's no misunderstanding.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hale, are you ready for your report?
Yes, sir. My
Please.
report is for petition number B-105-24. The petitioner is Legacy Sign Group. The property owner is J&B West Roofing LLC. The request is for a development standards variance for property on 212, Highway 212 here in Michigan City. I had an opportunity to review the notice documentation supplied by the petitioner. I find that it meets our requirements, and you're free to consider this matter. I think that the issue has been properly outlined by Dr. Martin in her report, and she has set forth the appropriate standards that you are to consider that are found in our zoning ordinance, section 28-11, subsection B. Given that, you have an opportunity to either grant the request or partially grant the request or grant it with limitations which must be included in any motion, or grant the request but subject to certain conditions which also must be included in the motion. And I note again that Dr. Martin has included conditions in her report as clarified just a moment ago, or you may deny the request, or finally, you may continue or table this matter until a future meeting. As usual, I would like to note that the record in this matter includes the notice documentation supplied by the petitioner and the other documentation supplied by the petitioner, including the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals petition for a development standards variance signed by the petitioner surrounding property owner list, an acknowledgement of our public hearing notice requirements also signed by the petitioner, a notice of the public hearing, a development standards variance proposed finding and order, an affidavit of service, also signed by the petitioner, a project description, authorization for representation for this project by Mr. Wislowski, who is also present this evening as a member of the owner, J&B West Roofing LLC, a legal description of the property, a site plan showing the location of the proposed sign and its distance from Indiana Highway 212, a vicinity map, a beacon overview map, and a project data table. The record also includes Dr. Martin's report, this report, and the presentation by the petitioner this evening. That completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Board comments? I know I've got a couple of questions if you guys would like to step forward. So first of all, your sign does dim down at night like they're supposed to, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And then the second part of this is for the record, and so the public knows and understands, 145 square feet each side sounds humongous. I understand how big that sign is, but can you give us the dimensions of the sign?
Certainly, that measurement is all inclusive of the structure itself. And the actual copy area is far less, so I don't want to misconstrue that size. The existing sign that we're taking down is 128 square feet, 8 feet by 16 feet. The new sign that we're installing accumulates to 145 square feet. That's based on the copy area. There's some architectural and aesthetic features that are incorporated into the sign that are pulled from the building to enhance the appearance of the sign, making it more professional, utilizing materials like materials that are on the building. So all in all, the sign is not overly large. It's going to be and fit the area extremely well. And we think that it's going to represent not only Michigan City, but the client very well.
Okay.
I have a question. I'm looking at the sign dimensions and I have a question where you get the 145.3 square feet per side. The electronic changeable message sign is 7 feet by 14 feet 3 inches. Okay. That's about 100 square feet right there.
98, yes, sir. Yep.
The top JB West sign is about 17 feet 2.5 inches by, let's say, 5.5 feet. Mm-hmm. That's about 95 square feet. You know, my sum is coming up to 100 95 square feet, not 145.3. Where do you get the 145.3?
I've included one of the prints in your packet where I've outlined the copy size as well as the message center. Correct. And I had our artist at Legacy perfectly scale this and make sure that we've got the right square footage. And this was the number that we had come up with for the square footage of the copy area, JB West, and then roofing, siding, and gutters as well.
My calculations on those dimensions are coming up a third bigger.
If you look over here to the left, we've got a print. One of the measurements called out at 2 foot 10 inches, and then below that we've got another 10 inches. So if you add those up, 3 foot, 4 foot.
Okay, the sign dimensions though are about 5 foot 7.5 inches. The JB West part.
So, sir, the measurements that you're coming up with there are based on the overall cabinet size.
Right.
Mr. Siefer was referring to the actual copy size within that measurement that you're referring to.
But that's only the copy of JB West. It doesn't include roofing, siding, and gutters in there, as I look at the lines.
So that is 47.3 square feet.
But the part that says roofing, siding, and gutters is also part of the sign, and that's not included in your
It is included
2
in our.
feet 10 inches.
It is, well, correct. It's not included in that 2 feet 10 inches. That's another 10 inches. It's not 14.3 wide. It's approximately 9 feet wide. The copy area that I'm speaking with regards to. So that area squared off is 47.3 square feet with the roofing, siding, and gutters. Do you have this depiction?
I do, right there. I guess I look at it as it's not the copy area. The sign is the copy area and the borders that enclose it.
Yes. Yeah.
I got it all.
We got this one with the.
I got that over here. Yep. Yeah, it's all on there.
Okay. Bring that back, Luke, please.
It just as I calculate it, I mean, you can't just include where the letters are. You have to include the entire border around it that frames those letters too.
That's, yeah, understood.
And I don't see that in
We
there.
just wanted to call out the actual copy area compared to the overall size of the sign. The numbers speak for themselves. Our request stands on its own. The
Okay.
overall height of the sign is underneath what the code allows at 30 feet. We're 22 feet tall, 22 feet 6 inches.
Well, that's the height of the
Overall height of the sign.
structure and things.
Yes,
I
sir.
understand that, which is not part of the sign.
No, it is part of the sign. It is actually the sign at that height.
I just don't see where the sign, and again, my calculations, if I look at the two signs, it's a third over the 145. I'm coming up with about 295 square or 195 square feet on that.
I'll calculate perfectly. The scaling one on the computer.
This is, here it is. Okay.
We've got called out over here, the 10-inch measurement, those are for the letters there at the bottom, roofing, siding, and gutters. And then for the 2 foot, 10-inch and 3/4, that's for the J and B, that's how tall they are. So say we added this up, let's make it rounded up. Let's go 4 foot in total height. And then we've got over here, we've got a measurement up here at the top, 14 foot 3 inches. That's clearly larger than the J and B West roofing. So even if we were at 4 foot by 12 foot over here, that would be right at the 48. So that, I mean, we're right there at that 4 by, just eyeballing this thing, 12 foot. I mean, our artist at Legacy had calculated this up on the computer as he's the one that, you know, designed the sign. So we really made sure that we're getting the accurate dimensions. I tried to do a scaling on my ruler when I had originally copied this box right here, but I wanted to make sure that we were very accurate. So I went to our artist. I said, hey, can you please scale this for me that way we've got the right measurement? And that's how we got down to the 0.3. I could have eyeballed it. I've done 48, but we've got it at the exact 47.3.
I guess I look at a sign where you put the letters up manually. If you have a 3 feet tall by 4 foot wide sign with 4 rows of 6-inch letters, those 6-inch letters are only 2 feet tall. So that sign is not 2 feet by 4 feet. The sign is still 3 feet by 4 feet because that is the actual sign perimeter. And you're just measuring the letters here and not the sign perimeter. You're not measuring the whole sign that I can see.
Can I make a comment? Based upon my recommendation, they cannot exceed the number that's in the recommendation. So if they can't exceed it, they themselves will have to adjust it and make sure that that sign aligns with what the variance approves. If you guys choose to approve it, they would not be able to exceed what was requested. So that at that point, once they get into their development, and I'm pretty sure it'll be an eye on it, that we make sure that it aligns with what we approve, what they potentially will approve. If it goes over, then you will be in violation of the approval. So I'm hoping that helps you with your concern, which is why Attorney Hales encouraged the planning department to put a not to exceed in our recommendation, which he tends to always do.
And I'm just looking at it, and to my eyes, there are factual mistakes in the measurements. And so when you go to do it, it will be non-conforming, even if we give the approval.
Well, we will go ahead and adhere to the approval that is given and those size measurements based on our sign design here.
Board members, is there any other comments?
Yeah, one quick thing, the site plan that I have here doesn't show the fence that you got around the yard there. I assume it's going to be inside that fence. There was another small sign there for Mechabite or another little company or something in that area. You're not going to interfere with their ability, are you, for people to see those signs?
No, that's my business as well, so.
Oh, okay. So if it does, it's your problem. Yeah. All right.
And just for clarification, the business exists on pretty much the whole lot from where the sign is on back. Yes, and then just for their, consideration, they did do the 300 radius around the existing building and not where the petition, where the sign exists. And I want to kind of acknowledge that they went ahead and renoticed and did a 300 radius around the actual where the building of the business sat. So that was very considerate.
Very good. Board members, is there any other comments? Or would anyone like to entertain a motion?
Well, I would like to make a statement first.
Oh, okay. You got one?
So just for clarification purposes, and I probably do this a lot more throughout the year, we are here to approve a variance for the petitioner to exceed the allotted square feet that our zoning ordinance permits. The board has the right to either accept the recommendation of the planning department, which will not exceed what was recommended, or the board also has the authority to suggest a square footage of its own with justification. I think that when you guys make your motion, make it based upon the reason for the variance itself. So, other than that, I just wanted to thank the petitioner for the continuances for us to sit down and communicate and try to find the best alternative, look at different avenues, take the planning department's recommendation and adjust beautifully as we have done over the last 3 months trying to figure this out. And I would like to thank you for working here for the city of Michigan City.
Thank you.
Before we move on, Mr. Hale, is there anything on this that you want to chime in on?
I would like to see any motion be very specific about size, seeing as how it's been raised. And that could be as presented. It could be a number. It could be the number that Dr. Martin used. It could be the number that Mr. Gross used. If you're going to approve this, I think there should be some specificity about that issue. And I would just remind you that we need to have public comment as well.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. We're going to open it up for public comment.
Hello, Board. Scott Melland, 200 Kenwood Place. I'm going to speak in favor of this one. JB West is probably the preeminent roofer in our municipality. He has a beautiful facility out there in 212. Clearly a significant investment was put there. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's also recently, I don't know if it's a donation or sold a significant parcel to the Humane Society for their new facility. This sign is actually a very pretty sign. I think we shouldn't get hung up in our calculations of square footage. They have to abide by the planning department's findings. And given the design of this monument, it's easy to get some negative space in it. They've got like this big base to it. They can always put a hole in it and remove several square feet if that's an issue. But I would put faith in the quality sign company Legacy and the preeminent local business to do the right thing. And this is a highway. I think this is very fitting. This is a handsome sign. I wish the public could see it. And I would encourage you to approve it, subject to the planning department's findings. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment? Public comment? There actually is no more public, but public comment is closed. Right. Board members, is there any more comments or motion?
I would just like,
Make a motion.
You gotta turn the mic on, Tab.
I would like to make a motion for the approval of the petition B-105-24 following the recommendations of the planning department, which includes, will be specific here, they must not exceed the maximum height of 30 feet. The sign should not be larger than 145.3 square feet per side, which permits the variance for the proposed size. The petitioner shall comply with table 19.04 in our zoning ordinance for permitted signs. And petitioner must follow section 19.06 general provisions for permitted signs, including but not limited to particularly regarding illumination as outlined in subsection D and the specific guidelines for electronic changeable message signs as detailed in paragraphs 5A-F of our zoning ordinance.
Man,
Wow.
give her a cookie.
Yeah. And that was Deborah Vance.
And that was Deborah Bates.
So I have a motion by Mrs. Vance. Is there a second?
Fred Klinder seconds.
And Miss Martin, if you would do the tally, please.
I will. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
yes.
congratulations. I just want to thank you for putting up with me for these last 3 months. I know y'all don't like me.
That's not accurate. We do appreciate all of your diligence in this and your approval. So thank you for working for us. Thank you.
Look for our little messages for Merry Christmas.
All right.
Yeah, it's up the area a little bit during the holiday. I like that.
Yes.
I'll send you my birthday. Okay? It passed a week ago, but thank you.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Yard. Well, I mean, it can't hurt to have a nice sign.
Yes.
Connect the dots.
There you go.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
it'll help light up that street too.
Ms. Martin, our next petition?
I'm sorry, help light up 212. There's no street lighting there. Thank you, everybody.
Next, we have petition B-106-24, Radke Engineering. They are requesting a developmental standards variance for a rear yard setback reduction from 20 to 7 feet. However, Radke Engineering submitted a letter to us on January 13th, 2025. It stated, "Dear Sylvia, we would like to withdraw our variance petition for January 14th meeting. Please call if you have any questions. Sincerely, Gary Radke."
All right.
Mr. Hale, is there anything we have to do with that, or do we just?
Are they asking for a continuance?
No, they're asking to withdraw the petition.
Then I believe that you can just note that it's been withdrawn and there's no approval of that withdrawal. It's their right to withdraw it.
Are there any stipulation that goes along with the withdrawal, or or can you kind of explain that so that we know?
A withdrawal is the same as a denial. So they're prohibited from bringing this back for the year. Are they aware of that?
Yes, that's what I wanted you to state. I actually have it highlighted to go over it, but I wanted to make sure that you stated it. Yeah, well, that's what, yeah, I interpret it as that, but just because interpretation is left up to, perspective, I wanted to make sure that council stated it.
All right. Next on the agenda?
Next, we have B-107-24, Jacqueline Scarborough. She is applying for a special exemption variance to allow 3515 Franklin Street A1 to operate as a tattoo shop. Second, a use variance to allow 3515 Franklin Street A1 to operate as a tattoo shop within 100 feet of a residential district. However, Ms. Jacqueline submitted an email and she is reaching out to request a continuance for the Board of Zoning meeting on January 14, 2025 to allow her to adjust the packet and return it for the meeting on February 11th, 2024. I would like to just clarify a few things. Ms. Jacqueline submitted her petition in pencil. And so as you guys, as I've heard, there was an issue with, kind of reading it. So I'm working with her to kind of adjust it. She also wants to amend it because it's not, she's going to go for a developmental standards variance. But she did do a pretty good job trying to do it on her own, but I want to move forward. And, I recommend that we give her a continuance to correct some of the issues with the petition.
Okay, board members, is there a motion to,
Brian Gross, I make a motion on petition B-107-244 to continue it until February's meeting.
the date on that meeting, please? It was February 11th, 10th?
Second.
Workshop, I think.
February 11th is the second.
February 11th. So I have a motion by Mr. Gross to grant a continuance till February 11th. Is there a second?
Yes, I second it.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to call the tally on that, please?
I would like to call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Continuous approved.
Next on our agenda, it says that we're moving into old business. Mr. Hale, do you have some old business for us?
Yes, sir, I do. I have submitted in written form that you have in front of you a decision and findings of fact for petition B-103-24. The petitioner applicant was Mark Marsheets. The property owner was Forest Avenue Properties LLC, doing business as MCM Homes LLC. You'll recall that the request was for a use variance at 407 East 8th Street, Michigan City, Indiana. Principally, for your reminder, he was asking to have approval of a third residential unit in the basement area. On December 10th, 2024, the members of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals found that the petitioner applicant was Mark Marsheets, that the property owner was Forest Avenue Properties LLC, that the property that's subject to the petition is 407 East 8th Street, that the property was zoned R2B residential, that the petitioner requested a use variance to add a third residential unit, that the motion to approve the petition with conditions that a motion to approve the petition with conditions was withdrawn, that a second motion to approve the petition with different conditions failed to obtain 3 affirmative votes, that a motion to table the petition failed for a lack of a second, and that as no further motions were made, Chairman Mr. Jackson, as the presiding officer of the meeting, declared a motion pursuant to section 28.05D of our zoning ordinance to approve the petition subject to the conditions that the project follow all building codes. And that motion failed to receive an affirmative vote of 3 members of the BZA. As it failed to receive that affirmative vote of a majority of the members of the BZA, the motion to approve failed, and petition B-103-24 was therefore denied, and the denial was a final decision. And therefore, as a result of those matters, petition B-103-24 was denied on December 10th, 2024. This is affirmed as of this date today. I would add, for your clarification, that we're required in all instances to make findings. This entire matter, as stated at the very beginning of the document, states that these are our findings, and it's a recital, basically, of the facts of the matter.
And
So
I think
an appropriate motion would just be to adopt the decision and findings of fact as presented for petition B-103-24.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Board members, is there a motion to adopt?
Fred Klinder here. I make a motion that we adopt the findings and facts of the Planning Department Zoning Division as per the attorney's report to petition B-103-24.
Mr. Klinder,
Hello.
may I recommend an amendment of your motion to just be that you adopt the decision and findings of fact as presented for that petition B-103-24. There's no need to incorporate any staff report, including Dr. Martin's and mine, or anything else. It's just this decision and findings of fact which set forth the findings that led to the denial of the motion, or denial of the petition.
Yes, I accept that revision. Thank you, Attorney Hale.
So I have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
I have a second by Mr. Gross. Ms. Martin, you could read the toll, please.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Mr. Van,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Findings of fact approved.
The next thing on the agenda was the BZA rules and procedures. Ms. Martin?
As we discussed last meeting, we wanted to move forward to try to establish rules and procedures for this board moving into the new year. I would like to make a recommendation to select a day, which I was presuming would be in February. However, because our petition was continued, we can pick a different day within February, but I will recommend that we have a workshop so that we can look at state statute as well as Michigan City zoning ordinance and kind of identify our responsibilities and or roles as we sit on this board so that we can move forward in a more policy-oriented fashion. I would like it to be in February, but it's up to the board. However, because we are here, I would like to see what day anybody would be available, even for the public to attend to find out what BZA does and how it is organized and structured. So I wanted to make sure that it was in open public.
Do you have any idea what the number of petitions will be next month? Besides the one that continued, any others?
No, that is the only one.
That might actually be a good time to have it. Is have the meeting, well, we could have the workshop before and the meeting after, possibly.
We would have our regular scheduled meeting. And then I think the best thing to do would be completely close that meeting down and then open it up as the workshop. Mr. Hale, would you agree with that?
That would be fine, and the public is invited to workshops, and we have to notify it, so we would have a notification for both, but that's a good process.
I was hoping you guys say that. So would we need to have a motion to have the workshop, or is that just?
I think a motion to have a workshop on that February 11th date to follow the regularly scheduled meeting of the BZA would be appropriate.
Okay, board members, is there someone who'd like to make a motion on that?
Okay, I motion that we plan to have our regularly scheduled meeting on the February 11th with the special meeting of the BZA, what were you calling it?
The workshop?
The workshop, following that regular scheduled meeting on February 11th.
Okay,
I'll second.
so I have a motion by Ms. Vance and a second by Mr. Gross.
I will call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Van,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
You know, by voting yes, that means you're gonna be there. Thank you.
It's overtime.
So that is the only thing I had down here for new business. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So after new business, we go into board comments. Is there any comments by the board?
I would like to make a couple just on procedures and rules and procedures of the board. Something to think about. One, you mentioned the Pledge of Allegiance. Later, I don't think we voted on that, but we should bring that up, make that formal.
You did vote.
Yeah.
Did we vote?
Yeah, we voted.
I got a short memory, getting old. The second, I don't believe we have any approved rules of procedure. Robert's rules is pretty common. We probably need to adopt something like Robert's rules as the approved rules. The other thing is we probably need to adopt the first meeting of the new calendar year as the reorganization meeting. And things like that are the rules and procedures that we probably just need to formalize and have in writing. I guess the other thing would be the first meeting of the year, we should probably also approve the deadlines for the coming year, or maybe the last meeting of the year in December, approve the deadlines for applications and stuff for the next year. So things like that are probably what we should discuss during the workshop. And you all have been on boards longer than I have, so you probably have a bunch of other ideas, but just things like that.
And just for you clarification, those are the type of things we're going to kind of workshop through. So if in your packet, you see that you have a copy of state statute, you have a copy of city ordinance, as well as some key facts pulled out of state statute. I'm requesting that everyone go through those, come to the meeting prepared for us to kind of put these procedures together as a collective. That way everybody's consideration is taken into account, as well as we agree upon them, because the minutes that we the procedures that we develop out of the workshop will be brought back to us at our next meeting, and it will become our guiding documentation. So we want to make sure that, we understand the rules, the regulations, and then begin to formulate our procedures and orders towards the last part of the workshop, because that's what I have planned out for the workshop.
Very good. Board members, any other comments?
One quick thing, we had a schedule that came out for the zoning meetings for the year, and April 15th is the third Tuesday, and generally we're on the second Tuesday. What? 15.
Okay.
My calendar at home, of course, is,
Yeah. I don't have anyone out yet.
Good.
Okay, I will update it.
All right. Any other comments?
Oh, and sorry. Finally, Mr. Gross, just for another clarifying purpose. As he mentioned, the agenda does go out, and it's always updated in our application, because the application date, as well as submission date, as well as meeting date, all have to are in our application. But I'll make sure that you're on the mailing for that, so that you can get it once I'll resend it out tomorrow.
And again, we can go through it on the workshop, but it's just, like this meeting and the deadlines for this year, if we had approved them in the December meeting, then everybody would know when they are.
Well, this is a regular standing meeting, so we don't typically approve meeting days, because it is by ordinance.
Oh, I'm talking deadlines.
Deadlines are always
Gotta think like deadline for January is this date, deadline for February is that, just that.
Okay,
I think that's something the board just needs to approve.
okay,
And so if we have that at the December meeting, then it can be approved for the next current calendar year and just stuff like that.
no problem. We can discuss that at the workshop. Thank you. And any other ideas or suggestions are welcome. Yeah.
All right, any other board comments? Board comments? Public comment?
Hello, board. Scott Mellon, 200 Kenwood Place. I'm here to speak about the findings for B102-24. That's the denial on 8th Street for the variance for a third unit. I attended last month's meeting, and I and many others are very disappointed with the outcome there. The findings of the board went against the planning department's recommendations, went against the planning department's recommendations, went against the neighborhood's recommendations, and goes against what Michigan City is trying to do. I also feel that the board did not follow their own rules, in that under section 28.11 variances, there's a list of reasons why somebody can be denied. I don't feel those were followed. I think it was a miscarriage. And this is, I can't say a justice necessarily, but a miscarriage of the authority of the board. We blocked a good development that was wanted by the community, by a developer with a good reputation. And things like that is what gives Michigan City a bad reputation in the developer's world. Why should they try to work here when they're welcomed by all our surrounding communities? LaPorte, Chesterton, Valparaiso, Rolling Prairie. It was a wanted project. I think, Attorney Hale can speak to this if he chooses. I know you've already closed the books because it was old business. It's old business, and you just you found your findings. But I think there's enough errors in that finding that you should reconsider that matter. I don't think this developer should have to go to court, which is his right, which he's probably going to have to do. But all that does is increase time, and he'll be given his variance, I believe, at that. But it raises costs and time, and it's what gives government a bad name, a bad taste in people's mouth, are decisions like that, which I found capricious and wrong. And I have no connection with that developer. I'm just a citizen of Michigan City who's been trying to keep my eye on the ball the last year or so in particular, as many of you have seen at many meetings. And I know all of you weren't here, but I really wish you could reconsider that matter if it's allowable, because I think it was a gross error. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment? Drew, do we have anybody online? Public comment? Public comment? Public comment is now closed. Is there an adjournment? A motion for adjournment?
So moved to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Klinger, seconded by Ms. Vance. And we are adjourned.